Hello and welcome to this presentation on study skills to help your high school student with autism prepare for college. I'm just going to go over a few of these as well as some background information about this topic. And I'll first start by introducing myself. My name is Dr. Nicole Caldwell, and if you don't know me, I'm an autism specialist and a tutor, and I work with kids of all ages, a lot with math and science, but also with reading and other things, language, communication, social skills, all that good stuff that our kiddos like to work on. A little bit about my background is that I have a master's degree and a PhD in special education, both of those with an emphasis in autism. And some of my certifications are an elementary education teacher in the state of Texas, special education, early childhood through 12th grade, Montessori elementary teacher, and pivotal response treatment, or PRT, which is a really great strategy that I love. And I've been working with kiddos with autism, I think, for about 15 years. I keep losing count because it's been a while. And I've been also teaching college courses probably off and on for about 6 years total. It's been since, I guess, 2009 since I started doing that, but in total about 6 years doing that. And I also have a couple of autism websites, and you can check them out at those links that are on the bottom of your handout. Oh, and do make sure you have downloaded the handout because you'll be able to click the links and stuff from there. So we're going to jump into our topic next, college for our kiddos. It's a big change. There's a lot of things that are going to be different from them about high school, which I know is not surprising. They're going to need to have more independence. They're going to have the opportunity, I guess, to have more independence, which is good, but also a little bit of a challenge. There's going to be probably a larger campus that they're on if they're living on campus or going to school on campus versus an online program. They may not automatically get the same accommodations that they did in high school. They'll have to kind of go through our process to get those if they need those. So that's something that they'll have to consider. There's going to be lots of increased opportunities for social skills. There's going to be mental health is a factor that plays in. So a lot is going to be going on for our kiddos when they go to college. These are just a few things that kind of came to mind as I was thinking about this topic. So those lead me into a few preliminary considerations when we're thinking about our kiddos going off to college. There's some research that indicates that young adults with autism may complete college degrees at lower rates. And so we're always trying to look for ways to help improve this statistic, basically. And I think that it's happening. We're doing better. We have to consider that our students, especially during this time, our kids may have some increased mental health needs, including some anxiety and fear, maybe about all those changes and the new things. So those may have to be addressed. So that's kind of beyond the scope of this presentation, but I just want to encourage you that if you have any concerns or your child is showing any signs of needing this kind of support, to check with the appropriate mental health professionals to get them any support that they need. Again, that's kind of beyond the scope of this talk, but I just wanted to bring it up, as a consideration, since it is in a lot of the research that you see about college experiences for students with autism. Another thing that came up a lot in some of the research I was reading was that something really important for our students during this time is executive functioning skills, particularly organization and time management. And some of these research studies that you'll see here are really interesting in that they interviewed some students with autism, and they specifically identified these as issues that they thought were really important for them to work on to be successful in college. So these are kind of the things we're going to be talking about in the presentation today, specifically these types of study skills relating to this organization, time management, and you can work on these skills with your student or your child before they go on to college. And a lot of the things I'm going to talk about today came from the specific challenges that some of my students in my college classes deal with, and how they might be able to, you might be able to work on those challenges and kind of prevent them from happening before they get started, before your student goes on to college. So the first thing I want to bring up is to, when you're in a college course, and a lot of high schools are including a syllabus for their courses now, which I think is fantastic because it gets the students used to it. But the syllabus is a really, really important document for your college courses. It's basically going to give an overview of everything about the course policies, what the required reading materials are, the assignments, when they're due, what the instructor inspects, all this good stuff is in the syllabus. So it's really, really important. So what I would recommend that you do, if you're working with your student, maybe they have a syllabus for their high school classes, or maybe if you want to make one if you're homeschooling, It's an awesome idea to kind of make a syllabus for your classes, even though it's maybe it feels a little bit silly to do that for your own homeschooling, but it'll be great practice for your student. So if you have a syllabus available, what you want to have your student do is read it over once just to get all the information, to kind of an overview. And then you can refer back to that syllabus to do other study skill things that we're going to talk about, like making a calendar and a schedule. You can refer to the syllabus to work on these other things. So it's a great starting point. And I always want to emphasize, you want to print a copy of the syllabus or at least save one to your computer so that you'll have one for your student to refer to throughout the time they're taking the class. And the image you'll see here of a syllabus is one of mine online classes for my high school students. And I'll talk a little bit about that later, but that's just kind of an image of one. Okay, next study skill tip, planning a weekly schedule. So one of the challenges that my college students frequently experience is turning in all their course assignments on time. And this is just an example. At one of the universities where I teach, the students typically have 4 tasks in any given week. They have to turn in an assignment, they have to make 2 discussion posts, they have to respond to other people's discussion posts on the forum. So they have a lot going on. So I think it's really helpful if you plan out your week to make sure you have time to complete all of those things, as well as everything else that's going on in your life, especially when you're in college and you're busy. I did want to make a note, you'll see it there in kind of tiny print, that this university, that seems like a lot of work, but this university in particular has very condensed short classes where a lot of content is packed into a short session of only 6 weeks versus an entire semester. So if that sounds like a lot, don't be scared. It's kind of, most universities have a longer semester, so there's not so much work in every single week. So what we're going to do next is look at some examples of weekly schedules, specifically that are kind of for high school students to help them work on this skill before they move on to college. So when I'm first teaching this skill to a student, I might start with making a schedule just for one of their classes. So I mentioned that I'm teaching an online course for high school students with autism about 3D modeling, which is really fun and awesome. And one of the things that I do in that class is show them how to plan their activities for each week in the class on one single page. I think I have a picture. Oh, the picture must be on the next slide, sorry. So I'm going to show you those pictures that I was referring to that tell them how to plan out their weekly schedule. And so what they do then is they will practice doing this for each week in our class. And I do ask the parents or guardians to help a little bit with that in the beginning, prompting them or showing them how to do it as needed, since I can't be there to show it to them since it's an online class. And as we go on in the course, I ask them to give a little more independence to their student with that and let them take a little more responsibility each week for planning their own schedule so they get used to doing it on their own. Okay, so this is the one page in the class that I have them, that I show them when I'm talking about how to plan their week. It's just kind of some general info and just saying hi. So here is one example of how we take some information from the syllabus, which you'll see there where it says week 2. This is just an example week. These are all their tasks for 1 week. So I give them a checklist of the tasks in the syllabus. That's where that's from. And then they have the other picture there is their weekly planner page. So what they will do is they'll take all those tasks and they can put them wherever they want to on their weekly planner page. All of the assignments are due on Sunday, so they can fill it in however they want to do things throughout the week. They get everything on Monday and it's due by the next Sunday. So they can kind of allot it however they want. And I like to give them some examples for how to do that. And that's what we'll see on the next pages. So these are just some examples from the pages that from the planner that I show them. This is one way that they could set up all their assignments. It's kind of evenly spaced out throughout the week. So I give that to them as one option. And I give them another option where, they do a few things in one day throughout the week. So if they have, more time on Tuesdays and Thursdays and Saturdays, they can kind of group things together on those days and leave things out on the other days if they have other things going on. Just another example of another way they can fill it out. I like to give them multiple examples in the beginning so that they know that there's different ways that they can do their schedule, and there's just not one right way. Because we don't want them to think you have to do it any certain way. As long as it works for you and you get all your assignments done, any way to do it's pretty good. Let's see. So I kind of also give them this note where I explain a little bit about kind of the things I was just telling you. We can evenly space the work throughout the week. We can kind of complete everything early in the week to make sure we get it all done. there's just different ways to divide it out, and that's just some info I give to them about that. Okay, so that's an example of just one class, which is a great place to start. But once you've done that, like maybe once they've finished my 3D modeling course, you might want to start having them planning things for multiple classes in a week. If you're doing multiple subjects in your homeschooling, or if they have multiple courses they're working on at their own high school, you can kind of work on a weekly planner for multiple classes at that point. So this example you'll see here is one of my son's schedules that he made. I think it's his first one he made when we switched to online schooling kind of unexpectedly when everything went down with the schools physically closing down because of the coronavirus situation. So we started him on making a schedule for each of his subjects. And so what you'll see there is he's written science, math, band, and reading. And so then he had made a list of all his assignments for the week from his Google Classroom, and then he wrote them out on which days he wanted to do each one. And if you'll see there, he's kind of funny. This is actually a reward chart, and so his goal down at the bottom says get everything done, and he picked his own reward, which says 20 minutes of extra screen time, which of course is what he would choose. All right, so I have for you, if you'd like to print one of these for yourself, I have a blank copy of it on the next page, and I'll show that real quick. So this is just when you download the handout for this, you can print this if you want. Okay, next important skill that I want to talk about is rubrics. And a rubric, if you're not familiar with this term, is typically some kind of chart or table that shows the criteria that an instructor is going to use to grade an assignment. I think I have, yeah, here's a photo example of one. So when I'm doing that online 3D modeling class that I talked about, this is a template that I use for the first rubric in the class. So it's very simple. It's just a few steps for each one. But it just shows them, here's what you have to do, a screenshot of your completed project, here's the points that you will receive, and the maximum points you can receive, and then there's a place where I will type in their points earned for doing that. So it's just going to show them how I grade. So it's helpful for the instructor to have that because we know how we're going to grade. But what I think a lot of my students, my college students miss is that it's really a tool for them as well. Since at the colleges I work for, I have to grade based on the rubrics. It's good to know about those in advance of the assignment. So I always encourage my students to look at the rubric before they work on the assignment, and also while they're working on it, to make sure that they complete everything on it, so that you don't leave anything out by accident and then lose those points. So what I think is a really great idea is to have a copy of the rubric while you're working on the assignment, and then you can cross off each part as you complete it. I have another photo example here. This is kind of a phase 2 rubric, if you will. This is the following week's rubric from my online 3D modeling class. Each week I make them a little bit more detailed and complicated so that the students get used to how the rubrics are going to start looking when they're in college courses. But again, if you look at this rubric, it's something that you could take a look at, see, okay, have I done screenshot of completed project for learning the moves tutorial? Yes, I did that. I can cross it off. Did I put my initials on the screenshot, which is the second criteria there? And then if you did yes, you can cross it off. So that way you can make sure that you've got everything, so you'll be able to get maximum points on your assignments. All right, those were just a quick few. Those are the main study skill challenges that my students have. There's a lot more things that you can work on with your child. And some of these are going to be in these attached resources that I have through these websites. They have some great tips and ideas for other things, study skills, as well as other things you can do to help prepare your child for college. And I have one more thing. If you were interested in any of those online courses I was talking about, I have 2 that are coming up, the 3D modeling class, and I'm also really excited that I'm currently designing a design a video game class, which I'm super excited about. I love working on coding with my students. And I'm going to be making more of these classes too. I'm definitely working on a reading comprehension class where we'll be reading really fun and engaging topics, and maybe also photography, because I know a lot about that as well. But if you have other course ideas that you're interested in and we can use them, we learn the skills of the class as well as the study skills. So it's kind of teaching two things at once. If you're interested in learning more about those courses, there's a link there on the bottom of the page. And I think that's about all I had, just a few quick tips. But if you have questions at any time, please feel free to go to my website and drop me an email or leave a comment when I post these on social media or on the YouTube comments here below. And thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you being here, and have a wonderful day.